We're excited to give you a sneak peek into our brand new admissions course, OnTrack by mbaMission. In this course, we guide you through the entire admissions process, from selecting your target programs to acing your interviews and everything in between. Here, we share a lesson from our essay module. Every great application starts with a powerful opening, and that's exactly what we discuss in this video, and that's how specific we get in this course. We'll share 4 different approaches for grabbing the admissions reader's attention and pulling them into your story. Take a look. As you craft and refine your narratives, be thoughtful about how you're engaging the admissions reader. Remember, admissions officers read thousands of essays throughout their career, and the one that reads yours will probably have read several other files before it that day. If you start off with a boring intro, you might lose the reader right away. You want to make sure your opening lines count. Your goal with your opening is to grab and hold the reader's attention. There are a few different ways that you can do this. We call the different possible approaches the launch, the anecdotal, the inversion, and the lesser used quote. Let's start with the launch. The idea behind the launch is to quickly thrust the reader into the story, for there to be action to engage with right away. Let's look at 3 examples from our sample essays in this module. You'll be introduced to them in full later on. Here's our first. From my cubicle, I heard my team's weekly meeting starting, without me, again. Our second. After a year of remote work, we finally returned to the office and all seemed to welcome the cliches of small talk and the broken copy machine. But when our leadership announced that per tradition, each new employee would be required to sing individually at our holiday party, I couldn't help but wonder if this tradition was best forgotten. Now our third. Trays of lasagna, bowls of salad, trays of freshly cut fruit. When I returned one day from visiting my mother at the hospital, I was surprised to find that our friends had gotten together to make us homemade meals. When you read these essays, notice that there's no long and meandering wind-up. We're immediately thrust into the middle of the action and into the mystery. And that makes us want to keep reading. It makes us want to unravel that mystery. Let's look at a poorly executed launch attempt so you know what to beware of. As a new programmer, I was initially ostracized by colleagues, but I thought of a new product idea, won them over, hosted social events, and won the firm's Culture Builder Award. It all started on the first day when ... In this case, the applicant has told his entire story in the first sentence. What do we need to read the rest of the essay for? Why go on? Make sure that you don't overlaunch or immediately remove all of the mystery. And people do this. The slowly unfolding story is what keeps the reader engaged. Okay, let's discuss another approach, using an anecdotal opening. Basically, if you have a more generous word count, you have room to paint a longer and more intriguing picture of the early stages of your story. You can situate the reader in the story and offer more detailed imagery following the show don't tell philosophy. Let's look at the opening of another sample essay. Here we go. In Lithuania, one of the most Catholic countries in the world, it's almost inconceivable for anyone to leave the church. Yet, as I grew older, I increasingly felt, as a person of science, I couldn't reconcile being committed to an organization founded broadly on beliefs. Despite a rich tradition and the good guidance the church provides, I still felt that to be true to myself, I should file for apostasy, a challenging process. Several of my friends refused to be my witness and vouched for my sanity. In our society, one is insane to leave the church because they feared I would be ostracized. Finally, finding 2 people who confirmed the thoughtfulness of my choice, I met with the priest only to hear him reject my deed of will. I had to find his superior to finally get my act stamped and my name removed from the baptismal book. Although I would no longer gain entry to sacred grounds and could not be married in my country, making my life marginally more difficult socially, I was nonetheless at peace with myself because I know that there is no price for living by the truth. After countless reads, I still find that to be an incredibly powerful opening. And we will talk about how audacious it is when we review the essay in full later in this module. Nonetheless, it is a standalone anecdote that puts the reader solidly in the middle of the story. This entire anecdotal opening is a setup to make a core point that this applicant seeks truth at all costs. Another approach is the inversion, inverting the opening by offering a piece of the conclusion, but only as a way of creating more mystery. This is much harder to do than the other approaches, and if you use this technique, you shouldn't do so more than once because it could start to seem gimmicky. That said, here's what an inversion might look like. I had just learned that I'd been given my firm's Culture Builder Award. Only a year earlier, I hadn't even been invited to meetings with my own programming team. How did this happen? At the end of my first month at the company, I took things into my own hands and essentially invited myself to our team's weekly meeting, determined to pitch my best idea that day. ... Okay, this works. The ending's been teased, but the mystery remains. Later we'll discover how and why he was given that Culture Builder Award, and the link to his success will be made. This is a more challenging device to make work, but it can work as long as the necessary linkages are made that connect the different parts of the story. Lastly, you can start your essay with a quote, but you have to be careful to not overuse quotes or to not use quotes when you don't need to. Again, you might use one at the beginning of one of your essays, but the quote you choose needs to be meaningful. This is the most overused device, so don't just use it as a crutch, as an easy way to start your essay. Really think it through. Does the quote add anything? Take this example from one of our sample essays. According to the theory of aerodynamics, the bumblebee should be unable to fly because of its body composition in relation to total wingspan. This is actually an excellent use of a quote. It's fiercely original, and the allegory becomes quite clear, as you will understand when you read the essay. We have the launch, the anecdote, the inversion, and the quote. Never tell your whole story at once. Consider your openers thoughtfully. They're what draw the reader in and make them want to learn more. You want to and have to get that opener right. So, what did you think? Hopefully this video gave you some actionable advice that will elevate your application essays and also gave you a small taste of our onTrack program. There's so much more to learn with over 20 lessons on essay writing alone, plus dozens of other carefully crafted modules. We'll cover everything you need to know to put your best application forward. If you're ready to get started, take our introductory questionnaire and receive your customized learning path. And best of luck with your applications.